specific instructions to people on site is very important.
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't matter how detailed your drawing is, you
Absolutely.
still have to like speak to the person on site. Vastu is basically, it is important in India.
I picked up construction in Hyderabad to start with.
So whose idea was it? Because you're like actually giving, creating these scenarios. I think I've seen him in some of the videos.
Yes, Akash is quite famous. Hello guys, welcome back. Meet Varsha, who studied architecture at CSIT, a college in Hyderabad. While studying, she freelanced to gain extra experience. इन्होंने अपने knowledge को expand करने के लिए एक बड़े firm में internship भी किया और उसके बाद she worked with different companies. Varsha has always been interested in designs that are good for the environment. Her passion for sustainable designs shines through in her work. मैं आपको सब कुछ खुद ना बताते हुए सीधा उस experience की तरफ ले जाऊंगा with this interview. Let's learn more about Varsha's journey and her love for designing spaces. Tell us, how did you land your first internship with, let's say, some marquee ones?
So how did I land is I actually wanted to do my internship in Bangalore.
Okay.
And I wanted to pursue something in the sustainable architecture format. But it was always a question that if you go into the sustainable architecture zone in the beginning, then you would kind of like completely niche down and you wouldn't really know the regular method of construction, because considering the number of projects that generally go the sustainable route are very less. So that is when I was also exploring Hyderabad firms. So I think it was one of my family friend who suggested that Murthy and Manyam was one of the first architecture firms in Hyderabad. So I just applied for an interview and
you got it.
Yeah, I got it. It was a pretty.
You were lucky then.
I mean, the interview was pretty. It was quite long.
They grilled you.
Yes, yes. It was quite long, and I had to like speak to their senior architect, their project manager, and all that. And yeah, that's how I got it.
So you probably were a very good student and you were able to crack the interview, but it's not easy. It wasn't easy.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell us how important it is to pick up an internship while you're in a college before you actually get to get full-time work.
So actually doing an internship is a part of the curriculum,
it's a part of the,
right?
Yeah, but some people would think this, since a part of the curriculum, it's probably they have to go through motion and they do not really give much attention to it, much importance to it. So tell us how important it is to take it very seriously and do your best, and then then finally land yourself with some architect.
I mean, I think your internship is like you said, it is a game changer for sure, because that is your first experience of working in a firm, working with a team, because in this industry your team is your strength. You alone can do very little. I mean, that is in general in life, but when it comes to design, when it comes to architecture, it's everyone, from your project manager to the senior designer to the person on site, to everyone. So you get to experience this and you get to see a project going all the way from the design to the details to the execution to the handover. So that experience, the first experience that you get, if it is from someone who has been doing it for a long time, you get to learn from their mistakes, you get to learn from their experiences.
Sure. Tell us how you got your first job, and then how long was that, and then when did you finally start your own?
So after my internship, I continued working there, and then I worked with then that was a larger firm. So then I wanted to work in a smaller firm, because then I would get to do a lot more things. Like while working in a startup, you get to do everything.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. So that is what I was looking for. I was looking for a smaller firm where I could be an integral part of the entire process, and also because I wanted to do my own projects, and I knew in Hyderabad, I think it kind of seemed like there were more interior design projects in the market rather than architecture projects, considering it's an urban area, so that was the way to go. and it was a little difficult in the beginning going from being an architect, because I am an architect, by qualification, then getting into interior design, understanding those subtleties and the materials and all of that. So that's how I joined an interior design firm. Then I joined I worked in like 2 to 3 interior design firms, and then I started my firm in 2015.
Okay.
And my firm was called Urban Shastra.
Okay.
Yes. So you're a little confused because there's another number.
TASKO now.
TASKO, yes.
Okay.
So this was my first firm that I had started. Was I actually had another smaller thing that happened in between, which did not really like work out, and then I set up Urban Shastra.
Okay.
So Urban Shastra was the whole purpose for that was because when it comes to design, there are a lot of different things in the market. There are a million things you can do. The sky is the limit. But considering that most of my projects were in urban areas, and also there is a certain way of life, there's a certain routine, which obviously now because of COVID things have kind of changed quite a lot. But what I wanted to do with my design was to basically it's kind of like you're designing someone's routine, their everyday life, like what do they do once they wake up, and like where will they keep their phones, where's the water bottle going to come, like you're designing their experience of like their everyday experience. So that was the whole point of naming my firm that. And I mostly did consultation projects.
Okay.
I couldn't actually, I tried doing execution, but it was always, like if I'm focusing on the execution, then the design kind of suffers.
You take the backseat.
Yes. And then if I'm doing the design, then the execution. So
can't agree more. Same with us.
Yes. So then what I did was I started teaming up with contracting firms or contractors or vendors who would be able to give me a one-stop solution.
PMCs sorts. Project management.
Yes. PMCs, and where they could get me the finish and give my client the experience that I want them to have.
And you can focus much on designing then.
Yes, I would focus mostly on the designing and making sure that it is executed that way, because instructing and giving those specific instructions to people on site is very important.
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't matter how detailed your drawing is.
Absolutely.
You still have to like speak to the person on site. Back then they were mostly an execution based firm.
Okay.
Which was their strength was execution. They were doing B2B projects, and then they got into B2C also.
Okay.
So they had a really good team of vendors and people who could execute a project well once you had all of the details.
Sure. How do you have your clients visualize the designs, from the time? So you do residential only, or you do commercial as well?
Residential, commercial. Restaurants,
so
offices.
Let's say residential or commercial. How do you have your clients visualize what you're trying to plan for them? Through 3Ds or any other mood boards, or how does it happen today?
So is that like before we sign up with them or after we sign up with them?
That's another good question, but I think after the clients have been signed up and you are showing them the initial output, the final output and so on.
Yes.
Before the execution starts.
So when it comes to interior design, the most important thing is your furniture layout. Because that kind of decides everything in the house,
Sure.
or your space, your office space, or anything that you're designing. It's the furniture layout, it's the planning, because that decides your electrical, that decides your air conditioning, lights, AC positions, like all of the important technical services that are needed for the space to function well. That is what is just defined by that. So we start off with the furniture layout. We understand it purely from a functional aspect. Like we don't bring in the aesthetics at this point of time.
Okay.
I mean, of course, the layout and कि partition kahan aayega, those kind of things.
But how is it shown? So you use, some people would use a software, some people would use mood boards, or would just simply draw on a piece of paper. So how do you, when you get into discussions with clients, how do you show them what you are sort of envisioning for the house?
So we show it as a 2D layout,
Okay.
a two-dimensional layout with the color
Done through
palettes
AutoCAD?
and yes, on AutoCAD.
Okay.
AutoCAD layout with pictures. It's more of like a concept, like a mood board basically,
Okay.
where we discuss about what would be the theme in the house and
Sure.
understanding their requirements. Because prior to this, we have another whole process where we try to understand what exactly they want, and based on those that piece of information, then we give them the mood board
Sure.
and the 2D layout.
Sure.
And once we need to arrive at a final 2D layout, and after that we get into the 3D designs.
Okay.
So we give them 3D images and videos.
So 3D is the final output after 2Ds have been discussed, is it?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 3Ds are the final output, and then we also try to make it as realistic as possible. That is not in terms of the lighting and the reflections and all of that.
From the 3Ds.
From
Even
the
from the
3Ds,
3Ds.
from the 3Ds, like we use the exact same material from whichever
What you've shown in the 3Ds.
what we have shown in the 3D. Like yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah.
Sure. Tell us the importance of lights in any residential or commercial setup.
Oh, lights are the most important thing, and I think they're also sometimes the most ignored thing also. And another thing that I really believe, and which I keep telling everyone, is that bright lighting is not good lighting. Lighting is supposed to make your experience of the space better. It's not only brightening up every
Nook and corner.
corner of your space. And also why lighting is important is because there's this circadian rhythm that human beings have. So especially when it comes to homes, it's very important that we try to kind of maintain that. In offices, what happens is that you need to have the bright white light, and because your routines are not fixed, so there's nothing much that could be done there.
True.
But when it comes to homes, because homes are where we kind of go to relax and kind of like recharge ourselves, so it's important. And the reason why bright lighting is not good lighting is purely because of trying to maintain the circadian rhythm. So the temperature of lighting also, and the positioning of the lights is very important. Like I always try to avoid having lights over furniture. Like there shouldn't be any direct lighting. Mostly try to create indirect lighting in the space, so that there's just enough for you to do the specific task that you want, and not many bright lights anywhere.
Okay. So that also then means that one can let go consistent lighting if possible in the ceiling. Would you buy that idea that when you're doing a residential setup, it doesn't need to always be the consistent ceiling lights?
Yes, no, it should not be actually. It just should not be, because I mean when you get too much into deeply engrossed into something, then you understand the nitty-gritties, and then you realize that ye karna chahiye aur ye nahi karna chahiye. But when you're looking at residences, it's a personal choice, right? Like if you did not have a false ceiling in your house before you moved into your new house, you probably had a tube light, and that is what and it's about like bright light to hona chahiye. But it's not always necessary, because now we have lights for cabinets. Like when you open your wardrobe, you have a light, so you don't need bright light outside the wardrobe, because that the light that switches on when you open your shutters, that's good enough for you to access your wardrobe.
100%.
So it's more of like functional lighting, lighting that has a certain function to it. That is what is the most important thing. And consistent lighting is not necessary unless you are
it's a commercial setup where you need to actually really throw light on a lot of display items and stuff.
Yes, and there's a lot more people using the space.
True.
The density, that is what would make a difference. Otherwise we wouldn't really need it. And in homes also you would need bright lighting, mainly maybe if you're cleaning the space, or if you're working or studying, you need bright light on the tabletop. You need bright light over your dining table, so the food looks amazing, and you have a good experience. But you don't need lighting around you.
People who just started designing their houses, can you give them some pointers to avoid when they're designing their houses? Something that you must avoid when you're designing your house?
You must avoid when you're
Yeah.
designing your house. I think what I commonly see is that people don't really spend enough time in understanding what exactly works for them, because every individual is different, every family is different, and your routines are different. So you need to understand what works for you.
Sure.
Because it's very easy getting carried away with what you see on Instagram and Pinterest, and
Pinterest,
you know, you kind of like see one small section of the entire space.
True.
So it's easy to think that, you know, this is what I want, but lately, you know, there are a lot of experience centers in I think in most cities there are a lot of experience centers and a lot of different spaces that you could go visit and understand what exactly you need, rather than just going ahead with what is trending. Because unless you're living in your house you know, for maybe 2 or 3 years or less, then it is fine, you know, but I think most people live for longer than that. So you need to think of something that works longer, considering your future, you know, requirements.
Sure.
And another thing is, I think when you're finalizing your designer or your contractor, whoever is doing up your space, you know, even if you're choosing to go ahead with individually by hiring a carpenter and a, you know, electrician or anything like that, I think it's important to understand that what is it that you're getting for the price, because there's a tendency to go with the lowest priced quotation, which is not exactly that would work out in your favor. I mean, that is the experience that most people have. But yes, I think these are like two things, and apart from that, I can't really think of anything right now. Yes.
Sure. You know, how often you yourself would be visiting your sites? You would have residential, commercial, both, and I know for sure you have a team. You know, they're always available. You can send them to the sites. But how often would you yourself visit these sites that you are designing and executing?
So I visit the site. I definitely need to visit the site before we start designing, because one thing that the floor plan and the Google location does not show is the lighting that comes into the space. And for that, the video, if I get a video from the site, that also helps. But I personally, I mean, I really enjoy you know, being a part of the entire project. So visiting the site, I visit the site in the beginning of the project. And after that, during our design process, we make sure that we finalize everything with the client, including the materials, their handles, and, you know, every small thing is decided beforehand. And then we do a site team meeting on site before we start the project, wherein we do the marking on the floor. The client is also
With the client.
with the client and with the team, whoever would be working there. And then we explain everything to them. All of our details would come in, and you know, any specific crucial points that need attention. So everything is discussed with them. So that is one important point. And after that, I mean, these are the two important site visits which actually like define the entire project, where my you know, my presence is really important. And after that, it's mostly during any specific milestones, or if there is, you know, any critical situation on the site, because nowadays, you know, with WhatsApp and, you know, all the videos and video calling, pictures, with that most of the things get resolved. And after that, I definitely need to visit for the final setup, because you know, we kind of like to do up the entire space, like including the curtains, the styling, furniture, everything. So that is when,
Sure. As long as you have a good team and, you know, they can really manage things well, we can discuss with them through video calls, photos, etc. But those 2-3 points are very crucial, like you said, you know, in the beginning, and then when you're just starting out, and then possibly later when you have a critical issue that you need to address.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And also with the team, I mean, right now, you know, considering the number of years that I've been working, and the team that we work with, they've been working with us for quite some time now. So they are aware of the, you know, the protocols, and they know okay, you know, like madam ko ye acha nahi lagega and kya acha lagega.
So they do understand कि क्या-क्या चीजें important हैं, क्योंकि they have been probably working with you for the longest, and अब तक समझ आ गया हो कि क्या चीजें work करती हैं, क्या चीजें नहीं करती, which are the things that are straight no-nos, and some of the things that they have to do all the times.
Yes.
What would be those top 4, 5, 6 accessories that you would suggest in a kitchen? You know, we hear
a lot of times for different people that they would say that they've got a quotation of 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs. They wouldn't really know what is a good budget for a kitchen. I think it all boils down to the accessories you're using. If you use too many of those, then you'll probably not see an upper limit. But what according to you could be some good accessories that one can use in the kitchen?
I think I would say like some of the non-negotiables if you're doing a modular kitchen would be first of all, I think tandem baskets. They're the most basic ones, but I think you could have more of those in the kitchen. And a tall unit, definitely, the pantry pull-out, because that just accommodates all of your groceries in one section. And the magic corner, any corner system basically. I know lately I see a lot of people say they don't really give you the maximum space utilization, but then it's comparing convenience over space utilization. So magic corners for sure, and the rolling shutter. I think that is very helpful, and these are something that I think if you're getting a kitchen, these could be your non-negotiables for sure. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. I think we also hear from a lot of people that in India Vastu is very big. People do want to follow it, but when people come to us and talk about Vastu, we'd always say that Vastu is very vast and we cannot really cover it fully, though there are some basic tips that we can follow. But I think it's always their own choice, to each their own. And what's your take on that? Can you give us some Vastu tips?
I would say that your designer is not the right person to give you any Vastu tips. Like, do not ask Vastu tips to your designer, because Vastu is basically, it is important in India. It's more of like climatology that we do study about in architecture. It's about the movement of the sun and where's the wind blowing from, and all of that, so that you have a comfortable microclimate kind of inside your house. So that is what Vastu is about. But currently, because we live in apartments, if you're buying an east facing house, there is no sunlight coming. The morning sun rays are not coming into your house. So it's really not serving the purpose. But it's a very personal thing, and you need to listen to someone whom you believe in, because as long as you're peaceful inside of your head, that is what matters the most. Yeah.
Sure. All right. My next question would be, I'm sure you would have had clients asking for granite, and then of late, a lot of clients would have asked for quartz. What is your take on it? Quartz versus granite?
So yeah, this is a very common topic that comes up when we design kitchens. So I think like every material in the industry, every material comes with its own pros and cons. So that's the same with granite and quartz. I would say considering Indian cooking, where if you're making ginger tea, you would have to like mash the ginger on your countertop. Considering these kind of situations, I think the most economical and the most strong material would be granite. But then when you're also thinking about the aesthetics of the kitchen, the colors, because lately in kitchens we've been using a lot of pastel shades. So with that, granite does not really come in lighter colors. So then going for a good quality quartz, because when you look in the market, there are a lot of different brands of quartz available. So you need to make sure that you're going with a good quality of quartz, so that and if you're obviously the cost, the budget accommodates it, then you can go ahead with quartz. Yeah.
Sure. We see a lot of different kind of handles in the market available today, right from the taller handles to the shorter ones to the gold to whatever. What's your take on the importance of handles for any cabinets across the house?
Alright, so cabinets are really important, and this is also something that I suggest to most of my clients who are looking for affordable options. Is you can go for the most simple laminated shutters for your wardrobes, but just slightly go with something fancier for the handles. And a fancier handle doesn't mean that it's not functional. It is extremely functional, because you have a lot of different profile handles. You have handles which itself can be a feature element in your room. And also when you consider bedrooms, the wardrobe is, if your wardrobe is inside the room, then the wardrobe is the biggest piece of furniture in that space, and it really impacts everything that you do. Your bed, I mean, the curtains, anything you do, the largest surface area is occupied by your wardrobes. So going for nice looking handles, I think you should definitely put in that effort to go visit the store, see, experience the handles, and definitely get them installed. So whose idea was it? Because you're like actually giving, creating these scenarios. I think I've seen him in some of the videos.
Yes, Akash is quite famous.
Yeah, so like because when it comes to interiors, it's mostly about that, what are the three must-haves in your kitchen, or the kind of things that we were talking about. But then what you're doing is quite engaging, and it is useful for students, for newcomers, for people who are trying to do up their new house. So
yeah, and I think through podcasts and many other topics that we'd pick up in other videos, we would have a lot of topics that would appeal to seasoned designers and architects as well. Also, I think the bottom line has been this entire effort around collaboration. When I was in EdTech prior to getting into interior designing and execution, so to say, and in any other industry, we have noticed that there is a lot of collaboration. People.
Yes.
There are consortiums, there are pools, there are various things that are happening, awards, this and that. But in interior designing and architecture, I didn't really personally find a lot of such activities happening, through collaborations or consortiums and so on. So I did think that perhaps if we were to collaborate and people could come together and share ideas through podcasts or whatever else, it would really help the industry. And it's a humongous industry. If you talk about numbers only, we're talking about a $25 billion market in India for architecture and interior designing only. And when I was registering my firm back in 2016 and now in 19, and now we registered one more in 23, each time we did not have any option on the government website to pick up a tag a tag especially for interior designing or architecture. It was always construction or construction related fields. So I think it's a recent thing. With the advent of this whole ecosystem of interior designing, there is a client, there is a designer. Now last 10 years we've seen a lot of importance given to it, because earlier 20 years ago there were no apartments in the first place, living probably in Mumbai or a couple of other cities. In smaller cities, even in tier 1 cities in many parts of the country, we did not have apartment complexes, and people would build their own houses. And people also had a lot of time. People would have a job or they would have their businesses, but they had a lot of time, so they would just employ a contractor and do it. But now that last 10 years, we've seen a lot of apartments, bungalows, villas coming up from builders, and people just buy it and then they think of doing what they want to do inside the house. But structurally, it's all the same within the same society. I think now is the time this industry should see a lot of collaboration, and that's why we wanted to start something, podcast format or whatever it takes to have people come together, discuss various things and evolve. That was the idea.
That's really nice.
I think we had a very, very interesting talk there with Varsha about her journey and interior designing. And with this, we will take our leave. And if you want to become a part of this community, like, share and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Also follow us on our Instagram. See you in the next video.